Hello, I'm Neil Rankin and welcome to another instalment of the Scottish Student Sports BiteSSSize Best Practice webinars. In this webinar we focus on being inclusive and we have a fantastic presentation on the Stirling Disability Inclusion Forum. Presenting this webinar are Amy Beattie and Alban Dickson from University of Stirling, and they give us some great insight into how the forum was set up, who's involved and why the University of Stirling is investing time and resource into this group. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the presentation. Amy and Alban, it's over to you.
We're here from the University of Stirling. My name's Amy Beattie. I'm the Student Sport Experience Officer for the Sports Development Service.
My name's Alban Dickson. I'm Sport Development Coordinator for the Students' Union.
We're basically going to present how we started the Disability Inclusion Forum here at the University of Stirling, which will be useful information if you're looking to set up a similar group yourselves.
So a little bit of background to the University of Stirling. We have approximately 14,000 students. The majority of them are undergraduate students. We know a little bit about the profile of disabilities on campus, and we've seen a rise in recent years to over 2,000 students identifying as having some form of disability. We know that at least 120 of those are students with either mobility issues, visual impairments, or sensory impairments. And that's who we really focus on with the Inclusion Forum. A little bit of background, one of the projects we had was a wheelchair basketball club. So some years ago, we received money from Lord Tavernier's fund, and we were able to buy the wheelchairs and start that up as a sports union club. But unfortunately, we never really got the numbers to sustain it as an independent sports club within the union. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later on.
Yeah, we've obviously previously had a wheelchair basketball session running within one of our tennis programs through the University of Stirling Sport. But again, this needed a bit more of a kind of community pull towards this and needed more partners involved to get things up and running. So we've had kind of a clear importance kind of on disability sport from the beginning. This is also highlighted through the high profile performers using our facilities as well. So for example, we've had Gordon Reid coming in doing training, Ben Rillings in Paralympics. We've also had our curling team come along and use the facilities on a regular basis as well. So there's that kind of high profile disability sport already on campus. But we felt there was a need to pull local organisers together to give the wider community of students access to better disability sport. Cool. So yeah, as you know, there is a great focus on the importance of disability sport. There's all these positives, benefits of taking part in disability sport, and you'll be well aware of this. It's exactly the same as normal sport. Obviously, physical activity is a great benefit for all. It makes students feel more inclusive, and it's a great way to make connections and have a greater social life on campus and within the university experience as well. So yeah, I think the Disability Forum, it was set up as we had a clear ambition and drive towards disability sport. We felt that there was a need to pull together partners. So Scottish Student Sport and Cathy Gallagher, the head of University of Stirling Sport, and the Sports Union kind of pulled together to start to get this forum up and running. So at the moment, we've got a number of key partners involved. I'll just go through them at the moment. So we've got Scottish Disability Sport, Scottish Student Sport, we've got Forth Valley Disability Sport, which is our local provider. Obviously, University of Stirling Sport and the Sports Union. We've also had various Scottish governing bodies sitting on the panel. For example, Basketball Scotland have been heavily involved with the forum as well. And I think the aim behind this was to improve and develop accessibility to disability sport for students within the University of Stirling and the wider community as well.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens and the purpose of the forum. So as we've just heard, the overall aim is to try and just get all the stakeholders together. The business of the meetings, we talk about lots of different things. So very often we will cover events and activities that are coming up, perhaps campaigns or other important dates that we can work towards. And we also use the forum to review any survey or any other data that's come to our attention. The objectives, we want to review and develop the provision of disability support for all University of Stirling students. We look to use it to share learning, to share insight and innovation experience across all the key partners. And we also use it to encourage collaboration and development between anyone who's got a vested interest in disability support on campus. The terms of reference are pretty loose. We really welcome anyone who's passionate about disability support. So we have our key partners that Amy's already introduced. We also have our elected students. So from a sports union perspective, that would include the sports president. It would include part-time officers or even club presidents. But we also have that open to any other student representatives. So we've had attendance from students who identify as having a disability or students who just want to start running different sessions, making their club more inclusive. In terms of the meetings themselves, typically we start off with our welcome and our introductions. Very often we do need to go around the table because we have new people coming along to the forum every time we meet. We will start off with some updates from SSS, from the governing bodies, from Scottish Disability Support, and then we'll usually have an agenda with some kind of key discussion topics. So perhaps some of these different campaigns that are happening, perhaps focusing on particular sports and particular taster sessions that we've got lined up as well. What's really key for us is also to create minutes and create an action plan so that all the good work that we do doesn't just get lost in between the meetings. And an action plan has been quite a new innovation for us because we're beginning to diversify. As more people get involved, as we talk about new projects, new ideas, we really need to make sure that we're following through with them and something is happening in between these quarterly meetings.
Yeah, so there's been some really positive outcomes that have come out of the forum. There's been a greater collaboration between key partners. For example, last year we ran the BUCS Inclusive week. So that was a collaboration between University of Stirling Sport, the Sports Union, Basketball Scotland also got involved running taster wheelchair basketball sessions. And yeah, we just got really good support from Scottish Disability Sport. The forums also provided a space for students to have a voice. It gives them an opportunity to give some feedback to the university, whether that's to student support services or ourselves and the sports union. So one of the things that did come out of this was we introduced a quiet hour in the gym. This was come from one of our autistic students that sits on the forum, and he had recommended this would be really beneficial for the group of students. So they managed to make use of this quiet hour in the gym, which had come about from feedback from the student. We've also been working with Scottish Student Sport to launch our inclusive survey. So we've managed to get feedback from a high number of students that are classed as disabled at the university, and we've managed to get together and either have a meeting with the student or just kind of share back and forth some emails to get their feedback and how we can help support them get into sport and physical activity, whether this is part of a sports union club or just some advice about going down, using the gym and using our programs. By having student support services on the forum, we've managed to kind of create key contacts for them to go to. So whether it's been myself or Alban here or the sports union president, they've managed to pass on a couple of students that showed a real keen interest to get involved with the clubs. One of the examples here was Lewis, who wanted to get involved in judo. So the club have been really supportive with that. I'll hand you over to Alban, and he knows greater detail about that.
Yeah, I think touching on the judo example, what was really exciting about that was it was a club. They had someone new come along and they were really confident in adapting, but they were also really driven to make their club more inclusive. So we were able to support them get extra funding from university, from the sports union, so they had all the equipment, all the crash mats that they needed to make sure that their club was more inclusive. And that's exactly the kind of culture, I guess, we want to see. We want clubs to be able to come forward and have that confidence in adapting their sessions. A couple of other outcomes. We talk again about sharing of resources. One of the key ways we've been able to do that is to collaborate with Scottish Disability Sport and with the university to be able to provide the UK Disability Inclusion training for all of our elected officers and for our coaches as well. So some of you might remember doing the DIP training at the winter gathering with SSS. So we've run one of those already this academic year, and we've now got funding to do it again once in April for when all the new committees are elected, and again in September when everyone comes back for the next year. We talk about taster sports sessions as well. So we were able to do a wheelchair basketball taster for BUCS Inclusive Week in 2019. Sit volleyball is a really exciting development we've got on just now as well. So the volleyball club, for no particular reason other than trying to be more inclusive and try and open up their doors, they're now planning their third session of sit volleyball. So we did one last semester, which unfortunately wasn't very well attended, but they were then able to come along to the forum. We put them in touch with Forth Valley Disability Sport, with local charities, and they were able to get a really well attended session happening just last month in January. And I think we've got another one coming up either this month or next month as well. So we're really positive to see a club being able to grow and to benefit from the forum. I think we've got a picture of them on the next slide.
So yeah, the next steps that we've discussed at our last meeting in the forum, we've got a wellness week coming up. So initially this was a mental health focused week, but as you know, disability sport is a great way to improve students' mental health. So we're going to include a couple of inclusive sport sessions within this week. On the Wednesday that we're going to be doing the Get Active activities, so that's really good. Yeah, we've managed to, as Alban said before, create further training for disability inclusion. So the clubs are going to be doing further training in April.
Yeah.
So we've managed to get some more funding towards getting more of the clubs through their inclusive training. With the last meeting, we managed to get some really good feedback as well from Forth Valley Disability Sport in terms of the new facility, so how we should be improving access for the new sports centre that's going to be coming out in summer. And Forth Valley Disability have said that they'll be more than willing to kind of help review the gym layout and just to make sure that it is inclusive for all the students that will be accessing the gym.
I guess a couple other next steps for us is to create this working group for wheelchair basketball. So as we already mentioned, it's an area for improvement. We touch upon later on as well. What we're going to do is use the forum to start creating those working groups to be able to drive forward some of those different projects.
Another thing that came out of the last meeting was we are going to be bringing out a student consultation survey just to get some feedback from students regarding the programmes that they would like to see for the new facility. And working with Student Support Services, we've managed to get further feedback from them, and they'll be able to kind of post out more surveys so that we are making sure that the new programmes will be inclusive for students.
We already touched upon the survey that was done in partnership with SSS and Scottish Disability Sport. One of the next steps that came out of that, which we've already done, is meet up with some of the students that filled it out. So Neil from SSS very kindly linked us in with a few of those students, and Amy and myself sat down with them. We got a bit more of their feedback in a face-to-face session, and we were able to invite them along to one of the disability forums as well, so that their voice could be heard by all the different key partners.
And yeah, some feedback that came out of the last meeting from one of our students was that we maybe need to increase the promotion of the quiet hours in the gym. So we'll be reviewing this to see how we can kind of promote this opportunity to more students within the university. Cool. So yeah, looking at reflections of the group, we have had some really positive kind of outcomes. One of these being, it's been a great opportunity to get a group of local organisers together from various different backgrounds, whether that's Forth Valley Disability Sport, Scottish Disability Sport, or even Basketball Scotland. So we've been able to pull resources together with a large number of things. We've been able to improve the communication as well, so it's a great opportunity to share what's going on in the local community, so we can help provide students, whether that's volunteers or coaches, for the local providers' training sessions. Also means that the university can promote to local providers about what we have up and coming, and then they can see how they can support those events, whether it's Basketball Scotland coming in to provide a training or taster session. We've also been able to share resources as well. So for example, we've pulled together and we've managed to get support from other partners to find some more funding. For example, like we've mentioned about the inclusive training. It's also been great having students around the table as well to make greater informed decisions, to have their say. Because yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
So I'll just kind of wrap up with a couple of areas that we can improve upon. So a couple of lessons learned. Creating an overall purpose has been something which we've maybe lacked before. So that's why we've been designing an aim and a set of objectives for the group to use. Related to that, we also need to make sure we are delivering on that. So one of the points that Amy raised when we were putting this presentation together was to try and create some targets or some measurables so we can know that we're on the right track. We talk again about wheelchair basketball. So is there a demand for a specific sport? We've got all the facilities for wheelchair basketball, but the issue we had before was there weren't any students really driving it forward. There certainly weren't enough to make it a standalone sports club. To balance that, we had good kind of high community representation, but that then diluted it from being a student club to being more of a kind of mixed community feel, which perhaps wasn't what a lot of students were wanting, where you're working with people of all different ability levels and lots of different age groups as well. The other challenge is setting up a new sports club or any kind of new sport on campus is getting a good training time. And even though we've got new facilities coming, all those evenings are peak times and completely booked out. So typically the wheelchair sports would be on kind of early evenings, which wasn't very suitable for community users or for students. So that's something which we need to look at. We mentioned a high turnover in meetings. So we have, quarterly meetings, but very often it's different people coming along. And it does feel a bit repetitive where we have to go back over ground at the start of every meeting. But hopefully by having minutes and an action plan, that will help us avoid any repetition. And finally, we talk about subgroups. So wheelchair basketball kept coming up at all the meetings. Hopefully now by having a dedicated subgroup, that will allow work to progress before we next meet. And I think that's what we need to do for some of our other projects and campaigns as well.
So yeah, a few things to consider if you're thinking about setting up your own forum. Really think about the objectives that you want to come out for the forum, and set targets for yourselves so that you can measure the success of those outcomes. Think about the partners that you're going to take on board, whether that's community partners, ensure there's a student voice in there, whether it's a representative of some of the clubs. You might want to invite along other organisations within the university, for example, Student Support Services, the Sports Faculty, Sports Development Service. You might want to think about the meetings, the timing of the meetings. We tend to meet quarterly. You might want to think about how this fits around the academic year, whether the students are available. Should you start planning in April time or May for the new semester starting in September, for example?
A couple of other final things. Considering campaigns, consider key events. One of the things we've tried to do is tap it into our Healthy Body, Healthy Mind activities. We talked about BUCS Inclusivity Week previously as well. Are there any particular days or events, other things happening within the Students' Union that you can maybe tie into? So that's something else which is key for planning. Also, just checking in what's actually happening on campus. Are there any athletes who are already training, who identify as having a disability? Are there people who are already coaching or volunteering in those roles? So try and maybe capture a little bit of what's happening first. And finally, again, we talk about volunteers, absolutely essential for sport, but in particular for disability sport. It's a really good way of us engaging with the local community because we've got 50 odd sports clubs, loads of people with great expertise and confidence and enthusiasm. So there's lots that they can offer the local community, but there's also lots that they can get in return from that as well. And I think that sums up all of our presentations, so we're kind of open to taking any questions just now.
Yeah, and if you'd like to get in touch, find out a bit more information about the forum, you can contact Scottish Student Sport and then they can pass on to us.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the BiteSSSize Best Practice webinars. For more information on the development work of SSS, head over to the website at scottishstudentsport.com. If you have a project that you would like to share through the webinar series, then please get in touch through emailing neil@scottishstudentsport.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another edition of the BiteSSSize Best Practice webinar series.